Story 1. I would take an obscene amount of classes. From elder law to beekeeping to scuba diving, rock climbing, quantum physics, pharmacology, and French cuisine. I would know everything. Story 2. A friend of mine is a dual income, no kids, and does what he calls star collection. By which I mean that he and his wife go to Michelin-starred restaurants, sometimes flying to different locations. He keeps a little journal about each of the restaurants. He asks for the wine labels, typically keeps the menu, takes photos of the food, and writes a little blurb about the things he liked or disliked. It would make a pretty impressive coffee table book someday, I think. The funny thing is, though, his wife is very finicky. She doesn't eat fish or cheese and doesn't care for sweets, so the experience is almost always wasted on her. But if I were rich, sure, I'd do that. Story 3. I know it's really bad for the environment, but the thought of taking a private jet from my home to my destination and avoiding having to deal with airport terminals and connecting flights seems like a dream. I'm not saying the millionaires are right, but I understand. Story 4. If I became rich, I would be into traveling the world more extensively, staying in unique places like private islands or remote luxury lodges. I would love the experience of learning from different cultures in style. Story 5. Aging really well despite a bad lifestyle, so that people keep guessing I must have had plastic surgery behind my back, but no one can actually point out where and when. Story 6. Being able to travel whenever I'm feeling. I'm having a few abroad trips this year, and I would like to travel to more places, but I simply lack the money for it. Story 7. Luxury travel and multiple homes. I don't think I would even leave the United States as much as I would just want to travel and work from another location while maintaining all the conveniences of working from home. That's assuming I was still working, of course. Story 8. Being able to chase my dreams and aspirations freely. No budgeting, hoping everything lines up, and having it get derailed because unexpected expenses keep popping up. Story 9. Traveling can be fun, but there's so much stress in trying to find the best deal and the best season, all while preparing for food and the inevitable wish for souvenirs from the kids. You can only hope to afford these because, yes, it's magical, and you want to let them take some memories back. But at the same time, they want $20 for this thing. $20 isn't a ton, but it definitely adds up. Before you know it, you're just stressed planning the trip, much less actually saving for it and going on it. I'd love to take my kids all over the world, explore different cultures, and introduce them to new foods, people, and ways of life. I genuinely believe everyone should get to travel at least a bit in life to get out of their daily routine. It would help people, in general, become more well-rounded and open-minded if they got to experience someone else's way of life. Maybe it'll highlight the good you have and emphasize the bad around you, urging you to change. I could go on and on about the benefits, but at the same time, I can't deny the fact that traveling just isn't feasible for the average person. Most Americans never leave their country, and while we have our own diversity in nature and culture, there's something to be said about the overall influence of our nation as opposed to actually leaving the country to experience somewhere else. I mean, how many Americans think about how abysmal universal healthcare would be if we adopted that practice? But they've never experienced having to be told you need emergency surgery, call an ambulance, and not fearing the bill. No, we'd rather pay insane monthly fees for insurance that will do everything in its power to deny you anyway. Such a great thing we have. But genuinely, there are people downright convinced other first world countries that have this are actually horrific and barbaric. But would they still say that if they got to go for a year? The United Kingdom, for example, they have their own issues to be sure, but I imagine it's not dissimilar to everyday life in America overall. Just less fear of gun violence. Go figure. The point is, I'd love to travel, but the stress involved in setting it up makes it only barely worth the actual trip. If I had rich people's money, I could take my kids shopping, eat good food, make fun memories, and it's just done. I could find a hotel I like and get a room, only looking for deals casually as I'd still want to be smart with my money, but finding the best deal wouldn't make or break our budget. If my daughter wants a pink teddy bear, I can just say yes without having to weigh the pros and cons of the cost. I'm not saying I'd say yes to everything if I were rich, but I'd have a lot less worry about whether I should or shouldn't get this item as their one souvenir. Because, my goodness, it's expensive. But I want to let her have something, and she really wants it, And what if this is the cheapest thing we come across on the trip? If I say yes now, it'll be easier to say no later. But will this work in the food budget or eat into it? It's tough. And I really wish it wasn't. I just want to take my husband and kids to a little town about 3 hours north of here, stay in a little cabin near the beach, and enjoy the local life. But even that is easily $1,000 or so between rentals, food, and gas. It's just sad. In a way. Story 10. Professional cleaners. My boss got rich and upgraded to the daily cleaner, does everything including putting away kids' toys level of cleaning. His kids are going to be spoiled. But what a joy to have a daily cleaned home. Story 11. Having staff to do everything. I didn't grow up rich, but we had a dog walker and an ironing lady. In my 20s, I had a cleaner. Life is so much easier when someone else does things you don't want to do. Story 12. Collecting cars. It doesn't matter if they are multimillion hypercars or a $3,000 beater from the marketplace. All cars are mostly unique and special in their own way. Story 13. Shrugging at money and fixing things on a whim. I started dating a guy who came from a completely different background than me, and I was talking to him about how I needed to prioritize going to the dentist to fix a tooth, which I had been putting off because of money. His response was, "Well, go do it then. It's only a couple of $100s. Like, yes, that is the issue, that is a lot of money. It is important to look after your teeth, and I am getting it done, but that really made us realize that we did not have the same view on money. Story 14. I would get into real estate, build lower-income real estate, and build medium-sized 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes in a nice neighborhood with a community center and parks with fruit trees and community gardens, as well as shopping centers and schools. Story 15. Disappear. My biggest confusion about people having billions of dollars is not staying quiet. You won the system, you could literally sit back and do nothing other than vacation and contribute to charities your entire life and for generations to come. But instead, these wealthy people think they're entitled or obligated to meddle in public affairs and government. If I had $1 billion, I would set up an affordable housing charity, then disappear. Story 16. Buying a $20,000 plus coat that is actually designed to last for years. Heard about it in a Reddit story where this lady's niece intentionally destroyed the coat given to her as a gift from her in-laws with paint, recorded it, and uploaded the video to TikTok. Then her sister refused to pay the damages because she can just get a new one. It ended with her husband informing her sister's husband that the options were to pay out of pocket or the niece was going to jail because filing an insurance claim would require a police report, and they had saved the TikTok video of her bragging about destroying it on purpose. Her brother-in-law did the right thing, sold the car that he had bought his daughter, and had her get a job to pay him back the rest that the car didn't cover. Story 17. If I were to become the kind of rich where it would be impossible to spend all of my money in a lifetime, my town would receive many philanthropic endeavors. There would be a massive library, a top-of-the-line skate park, and bike trails for both leisure and sport. A huge recovery center and a community-based food pantry would be established. All the schools would be upgraded as much as possible. I would bring the community theater back to life, upgrade everyone's fishing vessels, and provide the police with unlimited crisis prevention resources. All the potholes would be fixed and sidewalks, crosswalks, and bike lanes would be significantly improved. So on and so forth. Story 18. If I became rich, I would totally get a big home theater system. Watching movies in style with surround sound and comfortable seats sounds like the best way to relax. Story 19. Not living every day of my life in constant anxiety that I could lose my house and everything else if I encounter the slightest financial hiccup. Also, I would travel. Story 20. This may not be that exciting to most, but I always said that if I won the lottery, I would get one of those old-fashioned milk boxes for my step and pay to get milk delivered that comes in glass bottles. It's a luxury I can't afford and something I'd look forward to. Story 21. I don't have a desire to be rich. I have a desire to be appreciated for my contribution to humanity, maybe an award for my generosity and foundation. A United Negro going to college. Story 22. I know a lot of people complain about carbon emissions, but if I had a private jet, it would be so convenient to travel and I would travel all the time. Story 23. Buying something without even bothering or looking at its price. When that time comes, That's when I can say that I finally made it. That's something a wealthy person would be totally into if that money came my way. Story 24. A personal health team. Chef for great healthy nutritious food. Personal trainer to be fit. Private instructors for various hobbies. Doctors for good medical care. Licensed massage therapist for relaxation and recovery. Therapist for mental health. Some type of consultant for skincare and body care that I don't know about that keeps older rich people looking great. Story 25. I'm Danish. That means I'm rich by any meaningful definition compared to most people. So, I go to work and take care of people with complex mental handicaps and go play ingress around Europe 3 times a year, if it's cheaper countries we're going to. Story 26. Golf, water polo, and Formula One. As an average person, I view these sports as boring, but for some reason, wealthy people go crazy over them. So if I became wealthy, I would probably attend every golf tournament, every water polo meet, and every Formula One race. Story 27. Show jumping and cross-country riding. I love watching it, and I would totally love to do it. No 3-day eventing though. I don't care for the dressage part. Dressage is pretty boring to watch and probably even less fun to do. Story 28. Adventure sports. Wakeboarding, paragliding, surviving in the Amazonian jungle after training with a professional, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, base jumping in the Alps, scuba diving in Southeast Asia. These require a lot of time, expensive training, and money to access the best trainers and the best locations. Story 29. Private jet. If you're already a young urban professional that enjoys working, nothing else the rich do seems like that much of a lifestyle upgrade except for having a sweet plane that picks them up with minimal notice and no 2 to 3 hour airport ordeal. Story 30. I'm a car person. If I got money, I think the new 30-bay barn-style garage with transporters pulling up would be a bit of a giveaway. That and the standing order at the local high-end sushi place. Story 31. I guess philanthropy? I know that sounds corny and self-aggrandizing, but it's really the only thing I can think of that I can't do now but want to. I don't know what I would do with an immense amount of money for myself. Sure, start college funds for my godchildren, buy their mom a new house. But after all the essentials are taken care of, I'm not interested in a mansion estate or million-dollar cars. I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to possessions. Every time I move, I throw away or donate almost all my stuff. I'm also not a huge fan of hoarding wealth and using it to accumulate more wealth I'll never use. I want my kids to have a good life, but not a better life than every other kid. So yeah, I think I'd drop $1 million on self-interest and for my loved ones, and then find some way to use the rest for charity. Story 32. Early retirement. And if I can still afford it, a massive custom saltwater reef aquarium. Story 33. If by rich, you mean a multi-billionaire, open up non-profit shelters for street animals, domestic violence victims, and sexual abuse victims. Collaborate with the government to build shelters for the poor and help them develop skills to live life with dignity. Establish a chain of restaurants that operate on low profit margins and high-quality food, funneling all profits into growth and employing the aforementioned people at competitive wages. Open a cinema with the largest image maximum giant theater screen ever made, and a few normal screens with 70mm, image maximum 70mm, and 35mm capabilities. Play 70mm image maximum films for a few shows a month, and also have a film club where you pay an annual fee and get discounted tickets and food, and have the opportunity to watch world cinema and classics that will be played twice a week at no extra cost. Establish a fund of $10 million a year for those in need of major surgeries and healthcare, allowing them to apply and receive their procedures free of charge. Story 34. Personal chef. Just to have someone make healthy options for me in healthy quantities when I need it. I notice myself eating too much if it's in front of me, and portion control is hard sometimes. Having someone take care of that and just give what is a reasonable amount, I would be good with that. Plus, could you imagine having Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner whenever you wanted it? Just some random day in July, you call up the chef and tell them you want a turkey dinner with all the trimmings for dinner that night. Story 35. Employ someone to be constantly making scratch-made chicken Caesar salad, French onion soup, and jalapeno poppers. Would need someone else for coffee and tea. Story 36. I think it would be flying first class all the time and having my own personal trainer, chef, and getting to avail of the best everything without worrying about finances. Also, getting to go to the Ivy League schools. Story 37. Knowing that I could help my family if they needed, my parents and brothers. Not having to work, just wake up and do things around the house, work out, and eat a healthy meal. Eventually, I would probably get bored and work, but for a couple of months, I would just breeze by.